Castellan Garin Crow rammed his elbow deep into the trader's helmet, and the faceplate cracked, driving slivers of ceramite and bone deep. Crow swept under the thrusts of his reeling foe's chainsword with a double-handed strike. His blade cut through the archaic power armor and dug deep into the corrupted meat and fused ribcage within. Burning goblets of liquefied armor sizzled and spat from the wound as Crow pulled the smoking sword free. His actions were calm and controlled, his mind rigid and his priorities clear. Your soul will burn, and you will suffer the agonies of the damned, for it is foreseen. The scream in Crow's head raged, directionless and impotent against the psychic defenses of his mind. He had never sensed it coming directly from the demon blade itself, but rather as a clawing shadow, ever beaten back by the purity of his soul, but never absent. You will be peeled apart piece by piece, remade in pleasing form to dance for the gods of the never-born. Crow swept on, his brother purifiers astride behind him. He sliced open the throat of another chaos-worshipping space marine, the arc of the black blade leaving trails of darkness and flame as well as warp-tinged vapor behind every strike. The blade's curses scraped across his consciousness, its frustration and spite pulsing through the weapon as Crow eviscerated yet another heretic. Suddenly solemn and serious, the disembodied voice spoke, "Your deeds are worthless, Garin. You will fail." Crow did not respond. The loathsome demon was a thing of the warp, capable of knowing many things to come, and yet all it could speak were lies. What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. So as you can see here, the Grey Knights are warriors of unparalleled might and devotion. They are literally the Emperor's God-given gifts to the Imperium to fight against any and all things of the warp. Castellan Garin Crow literally wields a demon blade that is constantly whispering taunts, whispering hymns of just death, destruction, desecration, all in his ear, and yet he never falls to its temptation. That is one instance of the miracles given to the Grey Knights by the God Emperor himself. He is what fuels their psychic powers to smite the demonic, to liberate the humans that have been tortured by the warp, and that is one reason why the Grey Knights are the elite of the Space Marines. In this next excerpt from the Emperor's Gift, I'm going to be talking about how a squad of Grey Knights are going to be going to take on a demon host. So without further ado, let's dive in. On the Justicar's order, we ceased delivering sentence, but did not lower our weapons. Smoke rose from 10 barrels, adding a powdery chemical scent to the surgical reek, tainting the raised dice. Only the Regent's shadow remained. It twisted in the center of the circle we had formed, writhing and clawing at nothing, straining to build a physical form from the air. Dumendion, pulsed the Justicar. The named warrior drew his blade in a sharp pull. Each of us added our emotions, our disgust, our revulsion, our hatred to his own, layering our surface thoughts around his clear, clean rage. The touch of our minds spurred his anger deeper, blacker, into a wrath intense enough to cause him physical pain. But he was strong. He let his own body and brain become the focus for our psychic force, channeling it along the length of his blade. Psychic lightning danced down the sacred steel, raining fragile hoarfrost to the marble floor. All of this, from our arrival to the focus of killing energy, happened in the span that it took Anika's heart to beat 5 times. I know that because I heard it. It formed a strangely calming drumbeat to the execution. Despite barely able to see it, Dumendion impaled the crippled shadow with a deep thrust. His blade instantly caught fire. This time the burst of gore was ectoplasmic and ethereal in nature. Slime hissed against our warding Aegis armor, failing to eat at the blessed ceramite. So here we see an instance of a lonely Grey Knight taking on the power of his squad mates to further bolster his psychic might to smite a demon that was possessing the planetary governor. Now, even though his body was destroyed, blown apart by the storm vultures, the demon itself still materialized into basically a spirit of sorts, and it took the psychic might of the Grey Knights to banish it back into the warp. And the last of the excerpts here is about the Chamber of Trials. The Chamber of Trials is that of the company of gatherers set out across the galaxy in search of new recruits. The gatherers are Grey Knights whose great age or crippling injuries no longer permit them to undertake the primary work of the chapter, but whose keen minds can winnow out the most suitable of aspirants. There are few limits to the harvester's remit. In their long hunts, they may scour many likely sources of recruits: barbaric worlds with no ken of the Imperium, the black ships that collect tides of psychers, civilized worlds of billions where they work via emissaries, ignorant of the Grey Knights, even the recruiting worlds of other Space Marine chapters, commonly without their knowledge. The Chamber of Trials is where aspirants arrive and their training begins. Even those whose suitable talent and purity are detected by the gatherers will be weeded out if their fortitude is found wanting. The knowledge and gene seed a Grey Knight receives, known as the Emperor's Gift, is too valuable to risk wasting, and barely 1 in 1,000 survives the first rites of passage, the pilgrimage through the haunted plains of Zandu Regio. Most who do are usually slain in the second rite, during which they must trek through the pitch-black graphite-stalked caverns beneath Ganessa Macula. Many more trials await, and a fraction of novitiates make it through the physical and mental challenges who are deemed worthy of receiving the Emperor's Gift and beginning their transformation into a Grey Knight. Chapter apothecaries, aided by psychic bonded serfs and Medicae servitors, implant the chapter's novitiates with the Grey Knight's unique organs in the lowest levels of the Chamber of Trials. Once these agonizing procedures are complete, the novitiate is ordained as a neophyte, and his true training begins. Unlike those of most chapters, Grey Knight neophytes do not serve in battle, for they must endure many years of martial and mental preparation before they can face the most dangerous foe of Titan's sons. A neophyte's skills are sharpened by the Brotherhood champions and his psychic powers, honed by librarians. He must also perform the rituals of desestation that harden his heart against the lies and temptations of demons. Should he pass these final challenges, then finally the neophyte will be raised to the rank of knight and take his place in the fight against chaos. So here we can see just exactly how difficult it is to become a Grey Knight. And if you look back into our previous video on the Grey Knights, we see just what goes into creating a singular holy bullet for a Grey Knight. And trust me, it is something that is just too grim dark to make it all worthwhile, in my opinion. A single bullet, in order to be consecrated and deemed as holy, requires the sacrifice of the innocents. So without further ado, guys, this is all I have for you today. Again, if you do want to see that video, I will be linking it at the end of this video so you can check it out. But again, do you think there's any other chapter that goes through a more rigorous training to become a Space Marine? In my opinion, it's very difficult, but perhaps maybe that of the Space Wolves, because they do have to survive a grueling winter on Fenris, and that is one of the more inhospitable planets out there. So with that being said, guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting, sharing, and of course subscribing, and I will be seeing you guys in the next one. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you then. Peace.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.